Hello, this is Kevin Melott. I'm the owner-operator of Chick-fil-A in Mason City, and this is how it all started.
Kevin, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Born and raised where? I know you're not born and raised in Mason City.
No, I started off in Lake Charles, Louisiana. That's where I'm originally from. Parents got divorced, unfortunately, and
How old were you?
I was 6. And then the mom went to Houston for the big city, and dad stayed in that area, and just kind of went back and forth my entire youth.
Between Houston and Louisiana?
Between Louisiana and Houston. So I know that I know I-10 very well, that whole area. So I could probably drive it with my eyes closed.
Did you graduate high school there then?
Yeah, well, yes, yeah. I was in actually Lafayette, Louisiana.
When did you go from there to Minnesota?
Well, we went. That's a long story. So we got a.
We got
a
plenty of time.
There we go.
We got plenty of time. I need to get that connection there.
So I love. Obviously, I love traveling. So I decided to go into the military. So I was trying to get away from home and far away as I could. So joined the Navy, became a Navy corpsman. So went to boot camp up in Great Lakes, Chicago area, and then my first duty station was in Bremerton, Washington. So I got to go out that way. So spent some time in Seattle, and then from there I went to Camp Pendleton, spent times with the Marines. So I was a Navy corpsman stationed with the Marines, then went back up to school in Oakland, California, and became a preventive medicine technician. So specialized in environmental health. So that's what got me into the food industry. So I was a health inspector for the military. That gave me some experience. So when I got out of the military in 92, I went to Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I was stationed in Long Beach, California. I was actually in a war. So after I got out the military, I was going to either stay in Long Beach, California. So I was thinking about I was interested in pharmaceuticals or joining the Long Beach Police Department. So that was kind of I was going to do that. And one of my best friends from back home in Houston, his dad started Marble Slab Creamery. He had a few units, and they asked me to come aboard and help with training and opening new stores, franchises. So that's what got me into the franchise industry. So I got to watch Mr. H. Mr. Handcammer was just he was my mentor. Just loved him. Great businessman. His whole family was very successful. And so started there in Houston, did that for about 4.5 years, and then left Marble Slab to become a franchisee for Marble Slab. So there was a group of guys that I went to work for, and they from high school. So they actually started a franchise. So they had stores in Lubbock, Midland, and then we opened stores in St. Louis, Tulsa, Albuquerque, La Jolla.
Wow. What year was this?
That was in 96.
Okay.
So I got out of the military in 92 and spent 4.5 years at the corporate office, and then became a franchisee. And so the group that I worked with, they had a bunch of Subways and roly-poly rolled sandwiches and marble slabs. And so we did all that. And then in 2003, they sold the company, and one of the partners went to Scottsdale, Arizona to start a new concept. So I went along with him and was director of training for a company called Nothing But Noodles. Did that for about 1.5 years, and just started training for a marathon. That was my first one. So I did the P.F. Chang's inaugural marathon there, in the Rock and Roll Marathon in Phoenix, Arizona.
Are you still running now?
Yeah, I run whenever.
Okay.
I run around the store. So I do a half marathon every day at the store.
Yeah.
So after that, and then I picked up a book while I was training for the half marathon, for the full marathon, and it's called The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, and just changed my attitude and just changed my direction. So the first line in that book, it's not about me. It just changed a lot of things for me. So left Phoenix, went to California, took a couple months off, and just found myself. So I went back out there and hung out with some friends and did a little sabbatical. So it was really nice. And then I started working for a company called FranSmart in Newport Beach. So I was right there in Fashion Island, but beautiful, beautiful place. Made it out to Newport Beach, and then started going to church out there. Met my wife, and that was in 2005. And then we got married, and we were trying to get out of California. So we were looking at any way to, we wanted to start a family, but we didn't really want to stay there. So her company, she sells storage. She worked for a company called Simple Tech, and she was selling product to Best Buy and Target. And she was traveling out that way all the time. So they gave us an Office Max. So Office Max was in Naperville. And then, of course, Best Buy Target were in Minneapolis. So we flew out and took a look at the opportunity, and we just fell in love with the Midwest. And so that was in 2007. So we moved to Minneapolis in 2007, bought a house in 2008 in Prior Lake, Minnesota, and had our kids. And that's how we made it to up to Minneapolis.
Now, what do you do at this time? Are you running another franchise in Minnesota, or?
I actually, I had a job transfer from California to Minneapolis. I was in sales, so I was doing really well out in California. And the franchisee from California hooked up with the franchisee from Minnesota. Interviewed, the toughest interview I've ever been in my life. It was cool though. So they actually sat me at a table. Did the interview with the full staff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What type industry?
It was a learning company. Okay. So it was just sales. So training, computer training. It was fun. It was good stuff. Everybody's trying to change and train all the Gen X and boomers into getting into the computer training industry. So Microsoft, Apple, everything else. So we were selling kind of bundles, for training bundles for companies. Okay. So a lot of cold calling, everything else taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Something a little different outside of the food industry. I was like, I'm ready to get out of the food industry. And so interview, sat around, did really well in the interview. And then of course, they said, just push your chair back and we're going to discuss how you would fit on our team. So I've never been able to, I've never experienced that before. So they had the disc chart with all the pictures of the people that were sitting around that table. So, the guy that was red, he was like, this guy's going to fail. He's a talker. He's not he's not going to perform very well and everything. So it was very interesting. So to see, because automatically on day one, I'd know who was for me and who was against me, so it's kind of cool in sales. I mean, you want to know that. So, and I'm kind of guy that's like, okay, nobody's going to be against me. I want to be a team player, so I want to get in there. So, but it's really good. But that guy that's questioning me, he's probably going to be my biggest, eventually he'd be my biggest fan if I can win his heart. Yeah. And that's kind of the, winning someone else's heart and fighting hard for it. Yeah. It's like, why didn't this guy like me? Did really well. So I was number 2 pick. So there was one position. I was number 2 pick. And then they said the girl that they really wanted backed out. So they offered me the position, so they were like, we wanted her, but at least they were honest about it. So anyway, so we, Rebecca and I, we actually found a house and everything else. And we were about to put some money down on a very, it was just, having 2 jobs. It was fine. Yeah. We would have been okay. And then at the last second, they pulled the plug and they said, oh, the girl came back.
Oh, really?
So I was just like, oh, what do I do? So, so we did a pivot really quick and made a couple of phone calls. And instead of moving into the house, we just rented a townhome. We didn't know where we were going to be. So we're in Prior Lake. And so the day we're moving in, just the landlord came over and I was talking to her and Julie. I was just like, hey, just FYI, my transfer fell through. So I'm looking for something, to do here. I don't know anybody. And, so she was like, oh, my husband's a sales coach. So why don't you, so she called Greg and, like the next day we had lunch. And then the next day I had an interview with it was actually Chamber of Commerce in there in the cities. So it was just one of those things. It was just perfect timing. It was the Twin West Chamber of Commerce. So it was very politically, it was a very, affluent and,
intense,
very intense chamber. And but it was great. So I go in there, Barbara Shaw was the president, interviewed the next day. After talking to Greg that night, she called me up, offered me a position. I was working within a matter of days. It was just crazy. And, did that for about a year and a half.
For the chamber. So met a ton of people. So, it was just really, it was perfect. So like me being in Minneapolis for, such a short period of time, I met so many people and, and just, CEOs and, all these people that were involved in the chamber. So it was really nice to be able to do that. So just made some great connections. And about a year and a half into that, we we were at church. So we went to a big church called Grace Church in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. We're sitting there and they were like, hey, there's a hospitality position that's opened up. And Rebecca and I were kind of like, hey, you should take a look at that. And I was friends with a lot of the guys at the church. And when they decided to put that position out there, I applied for it and got it and left the chamber, and then went to work for a big mega church for about 7 years. It was cool. So I was in charge of I was the director of hospitality. So
at the Grace Church?
At the Grace Church.
Yeah.
So, or pastor of door 4, because my office was right there. So I was always hanging out at door 4. So,
yeah, but
it was just great. So I was in charge of all the building. It's a very big building. So we had about, close to 5,000 seats, so it's a big, sanctuary, auditorium, whatever you want to call it. It depends on, how religious you want to be. A lot of times we had opportunities to host the big concerts from KTIS. So we were, close with those guys. So, which is the big, Christian station in Minneapolis. So we host a lot of big concerts, and so we had that facility. So anybody that needed a conference or anything, so we actually rented the building out. We had classrooms, and we do. And
you were responsible for.
And I was responsible for all that. So we had a full kitchen. So we did 100, full catering, plated catering, box lunches.
Oh, so that brought you back to the food industry.
Oh yeah,
there.
So I was back in the food industry again. So it was great. So we had a bookstore. We had full cafe. We had made to order omelet bars on Sunday. We actually set up, we had like a 12-station omelet bar. So people would come in, first-time guests, we would buy them an omelet. So that way they'd sit down in our Grand Commons and hang out, get to know, the church. And so it was a lot of fun. So it was a great position. Loved doing that. And you get to serve people well. And, people usually when they're coming to church, they're looking, they're searching, and, they need somebody that's going to, just love on them. And then go figure. Then Chick-fil-A comes along. 2013, there's no Chick-fil-A's except for the airport in Minneapolis.
Oh, in Minneapolis. Oh, really?
So there's no freestanders. There's no inline stores.
I did not know
like
that.
So it started. They had one on campus for many, many years. So Gary Brummels was actually, he's a owner he was an owner. He just retired, but he was one of the owners in Des Moines.
Why was Chick-fil-A though? How did you even know that Chick-fil-A did not?
Well, I'm from Texas.
Well, you were
okay. I grew up with Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
So, yeah. So when you go to the mall, that's where everybody went. Back in the day, it's like, oh, we're going to the mall. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go have some Chick-fil-A.
So you in Minneapolis, and you realize that there's none.
Yeah, there's none. So then they decided. So read this article that they're going to be opening 4 stores in 2013. At the end of 2013,
oh,
going to open these stores. So Apple Valley, they had Coon Rapids, Apple Valley, Bloomington, and what was the other one? There's the 4th: Coon Rapids, Apple Valley, Bloomington, and I'm going to forget now. I'll think about it here in a second.
Okay.
Maple Grove was the other one. So, but it was really cool. So they opened those. So when I heard they were about to open all these stores, I started making some phone calls, and there's the operator in Bloomington, which was the closest. And, back home, you always want to be friends with the Chick-fil-A owner, because you want them to come to your church, and, they do catering, and they might donate a bunch of free sandwiches, to the congregation. And, they're usually pretty nice people. Yeah. That's what I heard. I heard these Chick-fil-A operators are pretty legit. So I reached out to Reed and just kept reaching out to him, and he wasn't calling me. He was like, dude, I want this guy call me back. And after my first year here, now I know why he didn't call me back. So he was busy.
Okay.
He was busy doing some stuff. So,
okay.
So
you were calling him to do what? What were you trying to? I was just get this connection with the church.
I was just trying to meet him, because I know what kind of people the Chick-fil-A operators are. So this guy's new to town. He's from North Carolina. I heard he was from North Carolina. Probably doesn't know anybody here in the cities. So just to reach out for him. He has a family, and maybe.
You are not thinking about being a franchisee at this time. No. You're just thinking, I'm having fun here as a hospitality leader at the church, and I want to connect with this guy.
Yeah, I just he's probably lonely and busy, and it's probably overwhelming. At this thing, and
did he end up calling you back?
Oh yeah. He called me back. Finally, I invited him to there was a little get together we have every year called A Rise with the Guys. That's been going on at Grace Church for like 30 something years, but a bunch of football players, and it's kind of cool. So, just a bunch of guys, they fill up, the whole Tony Dungy actually, because he played at Minnesota. So he's in charge of that. So it's like athletes in action. So they get a bunch of football players, and Dungy gives an award away to the big athletes, throughout the year. So it's a lot of fun. So I invited Reed to hang out with me, because I was in charge of the hospitality for all that. So the green room and just getting everything together. So it was just really fun. So I was like, hey, if you want to come and hang out with me, if you can keep up with me today, come on out. And he just came out and had a good time. And, we enjoyed each other's company, and we started hanging out together and playing some golf. And, as things got a little bit better. And then it's the coolest story. It's part of my Chick-fil-A story, but he called me up and he goes, hey, you want to go run an errand with me? And I was like, sure. So he picked me up, and we went over to Sam's Club, and backs the truck up to the loading dock, and he goes, oh yeah, I got to pick something up for my church. And then I saw him.
For his church?
Yeah. So he found another church.
Okay.
So it was like church plant, like from North Carolina. Yeah. So it was like a vertical church or something like that. So they had a plant in the city. So it was really cool that he made that connection.
Yeah.
And, so him and his family, they were taken care of with the church wise. So anyway, he's like, hey, if you want to come run this errand with me. So we went out, show up at Sam's Club, forklift comes in, he a pallet of turkeys. So they put this pallet of turkeys in his truck, and we take it over to his church, and, I see him pay for these turkeys with his personal credit card. And I'm just like, oh, this is really cool. And we go in there and never says anything, about where they came from or anything like that. He's just dropping off these turkeys. It wasn't like, oh yeah, look what I did or anything like that.
Oh,
it was nice. It was very humbling, and just like, oh, this is what Chick-fil-A operators do. This was like, he's been very blessed with his, with success, everything that's his success, and now he's going to give back. And, I saw this young man, he's 15 years younger than me, but, more mature than I'll ever be, just generous and kind, and, and you learn that, and he learned it from someone else. And, so you see this, and, to be able to, to be a part of that. And on that way back that day, he was like, hey, why don't you come work for me? And I was just like, oh, I figured you'd ask eventually. So, so unfortunately, it was a hard decision, because I really loved the church, but it was time, it was one of those things, the opportunity, and, the church, my entrepreneurial, just that entrepreneurship, you're just kind of like, all right, hey, all right, you just got, not that it was dead end or anything like that, but it was just kind of, it's church. You do some good things and bad things, and, it's, you got to wait for people to make decisions. You got to go through the elder board, if you want to do this, and, it's just like, it's one of those things, not for profit. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you see this young man that's doing really well, and it's for profit. And you're just like, all right, how can I help him get to another level, that would help him be successful. So you're just kind of like, oh, so when he asked me to come board,
come work for him.
Yeah. I was like, oh dude,
how long did it take for you to make a decision? What did you?
It was pretty quick. My wife was like, I was wondering what he was going to ask you. So, but once there, and, put my notice in, and, the church was like, hey, like, we're done.
Thanks,
so it's like, but I'm still going to church here. So I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
So it was fun. So it was neat. So I actually took a pay cut to go work for Chick-fil-A, with my friend,
why was it? It must be worth it.
Because I just saw something in this young man that motivated me, and, it was just the right path, prayed about it, and felt that, that it was the right thing to do, and
at the right time.
Oh, it was just perfect timing. And he wanted me to help him with his brand growth, and, just get out in the community and meet some people and start, building the catering and
with your sales background.
Oh yeah.
Start playing a huge role.
That's what I did. So the kitchen hated me because, now they went from, like no catering to like thousands of dollars a week, just like, it was crazy. So we had a lot of fun with it, but Reed was always his objective. One of the things that he wants to give back, and he wants to create, he came from an operator where he started in North Carolina. Chris Lotta started, and there's like, I'm part of the Lotta tree, and they joke around about it, but a family tree, but there's like, 30 30 operators that came out of this store. And then he's one of those. And then, Reed's had 7 people, out of his store that have become Chick-fil-A operators. So just, going through there, and that's, kind of his objective. And, that's what makes him feel, where his success is actually going through and helping others, so, the famous Zig Ziglar quote, if I help others get what they want, I'll always have what I need. So you help others succeed, you just like when people come work at, at my store, I'm not clipping wings. I'm not trying to make you the person that, to be in here. If you want to stay, you can stay as long as you want to, but I'm not going to clip any wings. You're not in a cage.
And it's a great investment.
Oh, of course, but you take care of people, take care of people and they'll take care of you.
Yeah.
And just, it all goes around.
Wow. So you're coming in and working for Reed. How long are you doing that?
I did that we did that from 2014 until, 2 years ago. June was my last, so 2 years ago. So 14. So it was like 9 years. Yeah,
oh, wow.
So it was pretty close. It was crazy. I've been doing this for 2. So.
Yeah. While you're doing that, so when did the idea of, I can start my own?
Well, he threatened to fire me because he was paying me too much. So he kept reminding me of that. So we were doing really well. So he took very good care of me and, was comfortable. And, comfort's not good when you're a leader and you're, that entrepreneur. You're just kind of like, okay, we can keep doing this, but
this is working. So let's keep doing this.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it was working really well. And, but he was such an encourager. He was just like, okay, why are you working for me when you have so much potential? And, I mean, you can go out and do this on your own, and it's comfort. It was comfortable, and you're just kind of like, hey, I agree with you 100%. So the firing part was a joke, but a lot of
he did not fire you.
No. He just threatened that all the time. He would just joke around with me. He was like, oh yeah. So, but we had a good time and, we had fun and we watched a lot of people grow and we watched, sales who were, the top, the number one store in the Midwest. So we did that, and he was multiple.
You guys' store was the number one?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were in the upper Midwest. We were number one store up there, and then we also had the Mall of America, so he had 2 stores. So, there's only a handful of Chick-fil-A operators that have more than one store. So it's kind of you have to be really good to
have more than one.
To have more than one.
Okay, because they probably look you a track record before they allow you to open another franchise.
100%. Yeah, they look at your team. They look at everything.
Which it makes sense. If you cannot manage one, it would make you think you can do 2.
Correct. And well, that's the problem with franchising. There's a lot of people because it's all about the money. So there's a lot of people that McDonald's, Burger King, they just like if you have the money, they'll give it to you.
Give it to you.
Chick-fil-A is a little different.
Yeah.
So it's, so a totally different thing. So you have to prove to them that, like your track record.
It's good.
You're going to keep it up. So
you're operating basically under Reed, these 2 stores, and Reed keep telling you like, hey, you have potential to do your own thing.
Oh yeah. He was like that from the very beginning. So I think,
he planted the seed.
Oh, always. But I think even from the beginning, he always knew that, that I had the potential, but, as my friend, I think he was always like, don't underestimate yourself, so like, how do you get out of that rut where you're, like you can go through times in your life where you underestimate yourself or you don't feel you're good enough. And, Chick-fil-A is I think that's what scared me was, you're like these owner operators, they say the joke is that it's easier to get into the CIA or Harvard than it is to get a Chick-fil-A, opportunity.
Oh, really?
So it just, it scared me because I hate to hear no, you just don't want to be, it would just be, as in my 40s and, you're just kind of like, oh, can I really handle this right now?
Yeah.
Just, hearing a no.
Yeah.
And instead of, thinking the positive, it's like, oh, I've got what it takes. And, having that positive, energy. And that's usually where I am. I'm on the positive side, but there was still a fear in there because I didn't want to, go through that. And I think a lot of people go through that. So you got to fight those fears and you got to keep, moving on. And, but with Chick-fil-A, it's really hard because supposedly there was 80,000 applicants the year that I applied. So out of 80,000, it narrowed it down to, there was only 120 stores awarded that year.
Wow.
So out of 80,000 applicants, supposedly, and then they screened them and everything else. But, I was one of 120 that was picked, the year that I got my store. So,
wow.
You're just kind of like, okay, what are the odds? And, and that was probably one of the most, I was very grateful, but when they came in through the selection process and all the travel and going back and forth between Atlanta and,
that's what the headquarters is.
Yeah, all the essay questions and just all the things that they knew about me. So when my wife and I are sitting down for there's a final interview that they actually invite your spouse with. So it's just like it's legit. So it's
wow.
Yeah. So
what is
there was 2 times that they had to do that. So your final interview that's actually in the restaurant. So Lamar Leverett was my selection coach. So what he does is he works for the home office, but he's the one that gets to pick the person that he wants to bring to his boss that he says, all right, I'm betting on this guy. So he's putting all of his, he's putting all his cards, everything in one basket. That's right. He's like, and it usually gets down to 2 or 3 for each location. They'll get down to 2 or 3 people that they want to make it, they want to make it, it's a compelling reason why you want this.
Mm-hmm.
So they look at all these different factors and everything else. And he was like, okay, I think Kevin's the right person for this location. And you sit down there and my wife and I, and, it was just very honoring, when they're sitting there with my wife and I. And
did they ask your wife questions too?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just like, look at all this, not interview questions, but just getting to know her. And the biggest thing is like, okay, has he told you, has he told you all the things that could, the good and the bad of this? And that's where the red flag goes, oh, you didn't tell me that, So if you get those answers from your wife when you're sitting in that interview, a lot of interviews have ended right there, supposedly, in the Chick-fil-A interview process of just them not being, filling in your wife on what's going on. And, it's like, oh, I didn't realize.
Which is true sometimes. Men get too ambitious. They just tell their wife, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
The roses.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you realize your husband might be working 100 hours a week for the first, year
and your
or
wife
whatever?
Like, what?
And they're like, well, you didn't tell me that.
He told me just 35.
Exactly. Or you realize that you might not make any money the first year or, those kind of things. And if the way the wife reacts to that can be good or bad. But fortunately, Lamar was very encouraging. And then he told her that story. He goes, you know what, your husband, was one of, and he explained that from Chick-fil-A. I was like, this is how special this moment is. And, so it was very honoring. And I said, next to, the 3 favorite things, I think the 3 greatest moments in my life with my wife, was getting married and then having kids and then probably sitting there with her, getting the answer that we got a yes, so like, hey, you are the lead candidate for this location. So that was in Bloomington at the store. So they announce you as the lead candidate. So once they do that, now we get to travel to Atlanta, and there's a whole story behind it, which is really neat. There's a blue couch there, and they can make you wait a long time, and you're walking through. So the actual selection, the person that's Oscar was my guy, so he's still there. But
so you go to the headquarters to do what?
It's your final interview.
Okay.
So, so Lamar, he was like,
can that fall through too?
Oh yeah, it does. It does a lot. Unfortunately, there's some things in there. So people, if something comes out from your past, they have a little, I got a stack of 305 pages on you right now. I know everything about you.
Wow.
So they research it. Pretty much. There's a signature, like on that last day. But it's how bad do you want this, and are you ready for this? It's kind of it's your way out also. So as they're explaining everything, and they want to make sure that you fit into the culture.
Yeah.
80 years of culture with Chick-fil-A. From Truett Cathy, just started it this way, and this is. It's still a family business. So the family's still running around there, and they're representing the family well.
And it takes one bad apple to ruin the whole thing.
Oh, and it can, and unfortunately it does happen. And, people have different, scenarios and different, but it's neat to fly there with your wife, and she's a part of that. And I remember the last thing Lamar asked me, he was, "What's your words for the day?" And I said, "Confident humility." So be confident. Let them know that that you're the right person, but also be humble. Chick-fil-A is it's the biggest small company, like in they just have this magic. It's like the Disney magic behind the scenes that still make you feel that you're special. Even though I'm one of, 2,700, operators, owners.
There's 2,700 now?
Yeah. We have about 3,400 stores now nationwide. So,
okay. Is there any Chick-fil-A overseas? Or it's just
we actually we have Canada, so and then we have Puerto Rico, and then they just UK, and Singapore.
Okay,
so we're getting into going to some other places now. So
now going back to now, you are in Atlanta in headquarters office. Are you going through another interview?
Yeah. This is the final
one.
This is the one.
How long was that one?
It was about 3.5, 4 hours.
Jeez.
So yeah. So and they make you there's a little there's a little tension there. Just kind of like go sit on the couch and
was there any point through the process of going through this you sat back and thought, if I could just start my own business from ground up, I wouldn't be going through all this? Yeah. Or were you going like, man, this is going to be all worth it at the end?
Yeah, I never had any second doubts there. I mean, when you know the franchise industry, that's the whole point of having a franchise. And I learned that from, early on. You look at these iconic, American franchises, the Subways and the McDonald's and the Burger Kings. They were all super successful, for a long time. And then, unfortunately, you lose some of that, customer service. Burger King used to, make it your way, and the McDonald's, loving it, and I always hear these, a lot of people say negative things. I've got some friends in Minneapolis that own, they had multiple, they had 12, 13 McDonald's, beautiful family but they've been in that business since, like Ray Kroc, was around when they bought their franchises. So, and you just see that it's an American icon, and it breaks my heart when you go and have a bad experience at a McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, because we all have the capability. We're all capable of treating others well. And, and when somebody comes in your store, a handshake from the host affects the taste of the roast.
That's true.
So that's a Benjamin Franklin quote. But if you go somewhere and the food's not that good, if you go to somebody's house, and the meatloaf's a little dry or whatever, but
the customer service is great.
But if you walk in there and they're loving on you, and they're it's so glad to have you here at the house, and everything else is good. Yeah, everything else.
You do this 3-4 hours conversation interview in Atlanta. Then do they tell you right there?
Oh yeah,
is it done deal?
They tell you right there, and then you sign the contract. And,
they're not wasting no time.
Oh no,
they're not going to send you home like we're thinking about it. No,
this is the final. So that's that going in there. Yeah, this is the final thing. So they're going in there. It's yours to lose. So unless something came up, like some financial. You go out and buy a new house and a car because you're pre-celebrating,
they look into that too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They see all that. They look at your credit, like everything. They want you to be a good servant, they
want you to be a good steward.
It's it. And, that's our mission, like at Chick-fil-A, the vision statement, is just to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us, and to be a positive contact to all that come to Chick-fil-A. So that's on a rock in front of the home office.
So the judgment is not just financially, but also character.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they look at all that. So because it matters, character matters. Yeah, integrity matters. What are you doing when people aren't looking?
Interesting.
And, that's right, and that's one of the things. And you look at the success of Chick-fil-A. And, there's a few bad apples, like you said. There's some people that get through that, that made some, bad decisions. But a majority of the people,
that's scary.
They make it.
So you're going in there, you already know. Your contract is already on the table, but it could be shredded.
That's right. Oh yeah. You know that. And that's what gives you that little bit of, but that's where that confident humility comes in. It's just like, hey, like, this, you got this.
Yeah.
They've already screened out, these 80,000 people,
still it can be scary.
And you're here. So don't say something stupid and don't mess this up, as Reed, back to, hey, don't embarrass me.
Yeah.
That was his last words to me, like, hey, don't embarrass me.
Yeah. Because you probably used that experience
100%.
to show them like, hey,
100%.
when I came in, it was look like this and that 9-year time frame that I was here, look how much we grew.
Yeah. And this is what's great about it is like, it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about how I helped Reed do this. So it was never like, my team within Reed's team.
How did the Mason City come into play?
It actually, I was interviewing for a store in Cedar Rapids, the Westdale location, and there was another guy that his wife is from there. They had a super compelling, and he's super sharp. I mean, like, I couldn't compete against him, obviously.
Yeah.
And he got that location, and and then they said, hey, you're not the right fit for, like I said, they look for the right fit. So, I mean, he's from there. He's a sharp young man. He's doing a great job. Yeah. And at that location, but his wife being from there, everything else, and we don't have any family up here. So our compelling reason is just more of just the entrepreneurial side, just owning a business. Didn't have any family or anything here. So they asked us, so on the way back from Cedar Rapids, they said, hey, there's another location just in case. So they asked me that I actually interviewed for both of those locations at the same time. So when I was in Atlanta, they were just like, they threw that on the table. They were just like, hey, if the Cedar Rapids, doesn't work out, would you consider this location? And I talked to Rebecca about it and prayed about it. And I drove through, Mason City on the way back from Cedar Rapids and drove through the neighborhoods and, looked at some different, houses, everything else. So like the first time I drove here, we drove through the Asbury community. And it was funny because I pulled out and I see Grace Church. Yeah. So it was just like, oh, it's a sign. I mean, it was like, oh, I just left Grace Church in Minnesota. So like, is this a sign? It's just a sign. Same kind of logo, same colors, just kind of like, okay. So I took a picture of that, sent it to Rebecca. I was like, maybe this is the place. And, so it was very interesting, and, we wanted that opportunity to, to do something. And this location is very unique. In looking at the numbers and everything else, I mean, there's less people. Yeah. We're off the freeway. So there's definitely some hurdles, to work at getting over, being 5.5 miles from the freeway, 27,000 people, the Clear Lake, going from, 10 to, 25,000.
But Kevin, if you're a Chick-fil-A fan, it's just like addiction, man. 5.1 miles is nothing.
Yeah. Well,
from the freeway.
You gotta convince that dad that is on a certain, like, hey, we're gonna make it to Denver in 13 hours. That's the kind of, that's what you're battling against is the dad that wants to break his record to grandma's house. Mom's like, I want a clean restroom, and dad's like, just use the truck stop. So it's but the kids, hopefully the kids were influential.
Yep.
So we're getting there. Some people will pull off because of, the service, and we're starting to build that now. It's going to take a few years, and but things are going in the right direction, and you look at that every day, and you try to serve better and better, and you're trying to build a brand. And it's a small town, so there's only so much pie. So you got to be very cognizant of that, and you want to be respectful to your neighbors, and it's just you want to build a brand, and and we're not the it looks like we're the big guys coming in, but it's me and my wife and my family. It's a family owned business. From a family owned business, it's a family franchise, and we have high expectations, and we want to have a clean, friendly, location, and, just continue to serve people well. Yeah. So.
At that time, the Cedar Rapids, they already had the store running. Over here, did they already kind of map out the spot they want to open up? Did they already have the idea of open up the store either with you or without you?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that was already in the play.
So Chick-fil-A, they pick all the real estate is up to Chick-fil-A. So their game plan, they have dots all over the country. So we're
going to get a Chick-fil-A regardless.
Yeah. You had a dot
it was already being built before my name was on it.
Okay.
So I mean, that's just the way they do that. So Chick-fil-A covers, they cover all that. So 100% of the all the building, everything else, Chick-fil-A either owns it or lease back everything else. So land lease. Us as a we're individual owner operator. So I have a S corp and everything else. So my company owns the rights to operate the Chick-fil-A. Yeah. But Chick-fil-A owns the building, everything else in there. So, I've got the small wares and the people. Yeah. It's pretty much the process. They let me use their process. And,
so you got the deal before even the place was built.
Correct. Oh. Yeah. So it was being built. It was still being built when I got the deal. So it was a quick turnaround.
So did you move here when they were building it?
We did. We actually, so we moved into our house on August 25th and the kids started school on the 26th. So it was
2024?
Of 24. Yeah. So my kids, they sacrificed. They were at a big school in Prior Lake, Minnesota, and, 3,500 kids and I think 780 kids walked.
They come over here to make better connection, man.
You know what? I think they did pretty good here. So they get
you get small school, you get better connection, close knit relationship.
Yeah, I think they did pretty well. So my kids got to play varsity sports that they probably wouldn't have ever had a chance in like a school like that is like a D1 high school. It's crazy. So they came out here and my son got to play football and basketball and
got Pete. Did Pete coach him? Coach your son?
Coach Pete was there for a little while. Okay. Until he went to West Fork last year or this year, but he got to work with him his first year in football and just great experience with Mayor Lee now and just all those teachers and all the coaches. I mean, it's just amazing. And they all said that just Parker's a great kid. And then my daughter Emily, she was on the cheer. So she did cheer, she did track, and she also did the dance team.
Nice. And you told me this story one time. Me and you, we had this conversation, and you used this word a few times in this conversation. Owner operator. Explain what that means on a Chick-fil-A.
So I'm the actual, so I'm responsible for the franchise. So I'm a franchisee. Yeah. But I'm also the operator. So we're partners with Truett Cathy. He wanted an opportunity for people like myself that might not have a couple of $1 million just sitting in the bank ready to purchase our own store, everything else. So we work with Chick-fil-A. So we own the business.
But you work.
But we also work the business. That's where the operator comes in there. Because Chick-fil-A we don't want passive, we just want passive investors. I mean, this is a full-time gig. This is what you do. You get involved in your community, you spend time in your store, you shake hands, you kiss babies, you're in there.
So they do not want you to give you the franchise and you just hire another manager there and you're completely gone.
No. That's part of the owner operator, and that's what Truett wanted. And that's what the success of our company comes from. So, if you go to a Chick-fil-A and you never get to meet the owner operator, then, I would, it would be interested, I mean, I hope you get to meet that owner operator or at least of him in the community, he's out in the community. It doesn't necessarily mean he has to be in the store
all the time. Yeah.
Breading chicken or, doing fries, anything like that. And that's not what we mean by that. But what kind of impact, when you hear that, oh, Kevin, the owner operator of Chick-fil-A, what is he doing? Not only in his store, but what's he doing in his community? And,
imagine that your grandchildren are listening to this podcast 50 years from now. What would you want them to remember about the kind of man you were, beside being a businessman?
Just, you go back to the basics, you want to be remembered, I guess I want to be known as, I want people to say he loved God. He loved his wife. He took care of his family. He worked hard, but he always, was just an overall good man, that cared for people.
What book has shaped your philosophy of business and life beside the Bible?
There's a few. I think the biggest one, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
I'm reading that right now again.
It's amazing. Again, I've read it numerous times. There's a lot of there's little books that people probably wouldn't hear of that are good ones also. So a lot of, Purpose Driven Life. I told you that one earlier. Rick Warren.
I read that one.
It's not about me.
just changed my perspective on, like I need to put others first, kind of thing.
Have you ever read QBQ, Question Behind Question, by John Melott?
I don't know if I read that one. So
I need it.
I need it.
It's very like this.
All right,
But there's a lot of wisdom in
I
it.
like books like that. So it's
As a matter of fact, I think I might have extra copy.
There we go.
I'll drop it off for you today.
There we go. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you, I was going to swing by the store and get you one of the how'd you do it, True It. So I was going to get you one of a couple of our Chick-fil-A books. So
okay.
I should have given it to you a long time ago. It would probably been you would probably ask some different Chick-fil-A questions.
Probably.
It was really cool. It's his whole story. And
I need to read that.
Yeah. So I'll get you one of those.
Yeah.
But also there was a book called Fish that I read back in the late 90s, but it was a book about the Pike Street market, the fish market guys that were up in Pike Street in Seattle. And just think about it every day. All these boats come in, they get the fish off the boats, and they put it in the display cabinets and everything else. And there's it was just the same old thing every day.
Yeah,
just out there. Now, you go to Pike Street Market, they're throwing fish around. They're enjoying that. It's the environment. Now it's expected. It's a tourist attraction, everything else. But there was a quote in there that says, "The antidote for exhaustion is not necessarily rest. It's wholeheartedness. It's only those half-hearted things you do that truly wear you out." So the antidote for exhaustion is not necessarily rest. It's wholeheartedness. It's only those half-hearted things you do that truly wear you out.
Wow.
So, so if you've got your whole heart in it, it's not going to wear you out.
Nah.
But if you're on the fence and, trying to do something that you really don't want to do, so that's my encouragement to most people. It's just like, hey, let's find what you're good at and let's try to make you the best at it.
Yep.
In Strength Finders, there's a reason behind it. And that's another great book and, everything else. But why do companies, they hire somebody and then they want them to, hey, I need you to take all these things that you suck at and be better at sucking. It's like, I don't want to, I want to be better at the things I'm not good at.
Yeah.
I want to be better at the things I'm already good at. So like, why wouldn't you excel in your top 5 things, so. And I mentioned earlier, Brian Tracy, Kiss the Frog.
Yep.
It's just such a off,
Yeah.
and, but of course, we had Mark Miller and Ken Blanchard, The Secret and all those books. Who Moved My Cheese?
Who Moved My Cheese?
All these little easy books.
That's one of my favorite too.
Mark Miller was on staff at Chick-fil-A for 40 something years, but he, they can't, as franchisees, it's kind of cool, because they don't tell us what to do.
Yeah.
But it's really neat that Mark was a writer. So if the home office, wanted to encourage us and, everything else, but they tried to help us by having this full-time writer, on there to give us, so culture, you name it, hiring, everything else. So Mark Miller was just this amazing man that started in supply, for True It and worked his way up to, he just retired and he has a really successful, leadership company and everything else. But it's crazy how many books he wrote for, and then of course, John Maxwell. Love John Maxwell.
Yeah.
Just, and that's the trust thing in me. John, every time, he meets somebody, my name's John and I'm your friend.
What advice would you give a young person who dreams to own a business one day?
Make sure that you love what you do. I mean, that's the biggest thing is just, it's don't just do it for the money. Because that's where a lot of people mess up, in a lot of things. Money is a great motivator. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Because the things that you can do with it are amazing. I mean, you can support anything that you want to support. You can support your family. I mean, all those things are important. But, when a lot of people, that are miserable, they can make good money and still not enjoy
happy.
What they're doing, and
that's true.
What they're happy. So you always try to find, if you find what you love to do, you'll never work a day in your life, as they say. So
amen to that. Well, one last question, Kevin. Give one message to the next generation, the young people that we both care about.
Well, the next generation, you guys are doing a great job, and don't listen to get off the internet and stop listening to people that are saying that negative things about you.
Yeah.
About, that you're lazy and all these other things. I mean, it drives me nuts because I've seen the generation that's working for me right now. They're hardworking. They care about their environment. They care about the people. They care about so many things, and they just want an opportunity. And there's a lot of opportunities that are being missed now. Because of, just everything, economics, and, there's a lot of things. I mean, there were some easy generations there. Yeah. There was a lot of good times and bad times, and, every generation has its own struggle, but, just, look for, it goes back to that, the thing that I said earlier, just, try to make decisions at a young age, let your yes be yes and your no be no, and find somebody, in your life and besides your mom and dad, it's, I'm saying outside of that, the family's great, and look for family. The more positive people you have in your life, the better. You are who you hang out with. If you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And that's not stereotyping or anything like that. Yeah. But if people aren't lifting you up every day, if the people that are surrounding you are bringing you down or saying negative things or, being negative towards you, it's like, you don't want to be around those people.
Absolutely.
Surround yourself with positive people. And I don't mean fake positive. I'm talking about people that really care about you, that want you to grow and want you to be at that next level, and, and just want you to be happy.
Kevin, thank you very much, man.
Man, it is my pleasure.
I appreciate it, man. It's been great. Fun. It's been great. Great story.
Well, I appreciate the time, and I know we've been talking about doing this for a long time.
I know.
So it's been busy.
We got it done.
Yeah, we got it done. So maybe, hopefully, I'll be sitting here someday interviewing you. Next time, part 2.
I can't wait. I can't wait.